Hello and welcome back to Life with the Biologist. Today I'm just going to be doing a brief introduction to my Bioactive Crested Gecko terrarium and its setup. It's definitely a work in progress, and I will do more update videos depicting its progress as things grow in, as well as detailed videos on some of the special plants and other accents in here. But today is just a bit of a brief overview. So to start out, my gecko is currently hiding up in the upper right hand corner, up here in his little hide. This is a 3D printed crested gecko hide by Sturdy's on Etsy. If you want to check them out, they make some cool stuff. It's incorporated with a climbing ledge in his food dish. That's all pretty cool. And then on to the plants in the lower left hand corner down here. This is the beginnings of my scindapsus pictus exotica. Commonly known as a pothos, although it's not technically a pothos. Also sometimes known as a philodendron, it is not that either. It is a scindapsus, but they do have a similar trailing growth habit to a pothos, and they are pretty fun. They have a very silvery sheen to them, kind of a weird velvety texture, so they're pretty cool, and they are a shingling plant, so hopefully over time he will shingle and wrap his leaves up and around the log. So that's the intention with him. He's pretty cool. Then inside the middle of this foreground, I have some snow queen, or otherwise known as marble queen pothos. The variegation on these is very beautiful. Tends to come in a little bit lighter when it's new, and then as the leaves get older, they become darker, less of a green, light green and white, and more of a shades of light and dark green, but very fun. Then kind of tucked back here, there's a baby leaf. This is a philodendron Brazil, type of trailing philodendron with somewhat variable variegation, but typically darker on the outside with a light green streak down the middle. Depending on the variation, it can be shades of light lime type green or shades of cream. The ones with cream are also known by other names such as cream splash, philodendron, just depending on the intensity of the colors of that middle streak. Then also in the back, we have a begonia, which is finally starting to take off, taking on some real pretty coloration. For several months after I put him in, he would pop up a new leaf, and the new leaf would start to grow, and his old leaf would immediately die back. So he was basically just continually putting out new leaves and then melting his old ones off, but he's finally actually taking off. And hopefully that is what will happen with this other begonia down here. This is a much newer addition. And right now he's kind of undergoing the same process as the first one, where he's putting up a bunch of happy baby leaves, this little guy here, but his older leaves are melting and dying off as the baby leaves come up. So hopefully after he acclimates a little bit more, he will start to hold on to his older leaves as he pops up baby leaves and become a bigger and happier plant. So that is the goal, and we will definitely be keeping an eye on his progress. In the back, you can see I have a little bit of a lucky bamboo, which is not actually bamboo, contrary to its name. It is actually a dracena, which is another popular group of plants that people keep in their bioactive terrariums. This is the only specimen of dracena that I have in mine. Just a little lucky bamboo cutting. Tucked up under here is my very sad looking cutting of a Pilea aluminum. We'll see if he manages to survive. He was kind of a scraggly little cutting when I put him in there, so he may or may not make it. But down next to him, see if I can zoom in. Go. We have my little Callista repens bianca, little variegated Callista, who's growing in here. Finally, again, starting to take off after having just kind of clung for life for a while there. And then next to the Callista is a little small ivy, which had entirely melted away. There was no sign of him in there for months, but I guess his root system was alive and well, and he is popping up new leaves. So that is very exciting. And then tucked back behind that big leaf there, that is a felted peperomia. see if I can. There's his baby leaves. For a while, when I first introduced him to the terrarium, he kept putting out big new leaves that kept getting knocked off. But recently, he has started to put out small baby leaves in multiples instead of one large new leaf, and all of the small baby leaves are holding on and doing well, so that is a good sign. Tucked in the back behind him is another variety of pothos. That is a mandula pothos, which is highly variegated with large patches of cream, which makes it very beautiful. However, as those areas do not have the ability to create energy, as they lack any chlorophyll, the plant is much more slower growing than a typical pothos or even the marble queen, which does tend to take on more green as the leaves get older, but it is also slower growing than your normal golden pothos. So they are still very hardy, as pothos is very hardy, but they grow a lot slower. And as the goal is for the pothos is a vining and trailing plant, so we popped the two varieties of the snow queen and the philodendron Brazil into this cork ground with the goal that as they grow, they will grow up the sides and kind of spill out over the top, which hopefully have a pretty look. Oh, and don't forget, as you can see right here, a bit of a variegated spider plant. He is very cute, definitely good at filling in some space, but as he does have the ability to become pretty big, I foresee that I will have to remove him from the enclosure. As you can see, most of his leaves are pretty short at this point, but he has started sprouting up very long strands that are just kind of taking over everything. So as cute as he is, he's definitely a temporary inhabitant. And I may end up having to move a few of the other ones around too when I take him out, but we will see if that becomes necessary. And then kind of what drew me to do this video today instead of another day is we have some very unintentional guests which popped up overnight. All of these little toadstools, little fungi guests that you see here. Not totally unheard of. They can pop up overnight and typically don't last very long, but I will be keeping an eye on them to make sure that they do not take over my Crested Gecko terrarium and turn themselves into a unfortunate fungi terrarium, which might be pretty cool, but is not the intent of this terrarium or the rest of its poor plant inhabitants. So I hope you guys enjoyed my little introduction to my Crested Gecko terrarium, and I will be back with more updates.